YouTube? I have the Sony ZV-E10 and the Sony ZV-1. Both cameras are in 1080p, standard steady stabilization, shooting at 30p. This is just going to be a video about stabilization, a stabilization test on both cameras, a comparison video. This gets tiresome pretty quick. This is 1080p, standard stabilization, and shooting at 30 frames per second on both the Sony ZV-E10 and the Sony ZV-1. Now, let's go ahead and switch over to 1080p. Let's check out the rolling shutter first before I switch over on both cameras. Pay attention to those trees back there. This is 1080p. Strange sounding bugs out here. Now let's switch over to 1080p with active standard steady shot, active steady stabilization. Now this is 1080p, active standard, active, not standard, active steady shot stabilization. I really like the recording border around the screen on the ZV-E10. My arms are, for the most part, extended fully all the way out. This active looks pretty good. Sony ZV-E10 and Sony ZV-1. This can get pretty tiresome after a while. This is just a comparison video. It looks like, let me see. It looks like the, I'm a little shaking on this. My arm is shaking a little bit. My arms are shaking a little bit because this can become pretty tiresome. It looks like the ZV-E10 punches in on active more than the ZV-1. Now I'm going to switch into 4K with standard stabilization first, and then go into 4K with active steady shot. Let's do that now. Okay, 4K, 30p, 100 megabits per second. Standard steady shot stabilization. My arms are pretty much all the way extended out. 4K, 30p, 100 megabits per second. Rolling shutter test. ZV-E10, ZV-1. Pay attention to those trees. Gonna go fast. Then I'm just gonna go normal, like panning. ZV-E10, ZV-1. Man, this gets tiresome quick. I'm just gonna have to hold it right here, close to me. Both cameras. Just normal pan. Just this is just a rolling shutter test. ZV-E10, ZV-1. Extend this all the way. Now I'm going to go into 4K with active steady shot stabilization. Right now. Okay, now this is 4K. Active steady shot stabilization is on. 4K. A lot smoother on both cameras. Sony ZV-E10, Sony ZV-1. Okay, my thoughts on this stabilization test between the Sony ZV-1 and the Sony ZV-E10. I think the Sony ZV-1 has a slight advantage in the stabilization department over the ZV-E10, which is what I'm filming on now with the 16-50 kit lens. Now, as far as the active stabilization is concerned, the ZV-E10 crops in more than the ZV-1 crops in active stabilization mode. But by the ZV-E10 being an interchangeable lens camera, you can always swap the lens out, the kit lens, and get a wider angle lens. You can get maybe like a 10 to 18 or 10 to whatever, and just use that lens when you crop in when using active steady shot stabilization. And the ZV-1, it crops in active too, but it's not as much as the ZV-E10 as far when you're using the active steady shot. And as far as the rolling shutter on the ZV-E10, not a big deal for me. I mostly shoot in 1080p. You may shoot in 4K a lot, but I can use 4K on a tripod or on a gimbal or something like that. But in 1080p, rolling shutter is not a problem. So I shoot mostly in 1080p anyway, so not a big deal for me. But with that being said, if you found this video informative and you liked it, just give it a thumbs up or consider subscribing. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Later.